want to be crystal clear about this. I am not saying that Zero Suit Samus will be playable in Metroid Prime 4. This is a speculation video, okay? We're going to be looking into evidence that suggests that while it could happen, and we're going to talk about how this could affect the gameplay. Zero Suit Samus has never been playable in the Metroid Prime series before, and personally, I love Metroid Prime the way it is. So the idea of it having some gameplay segments that could be dramatically different, well, it's something that I would definitely be cautious of. But nevertheless, I do think it's possible, and I think it's worth looking into and talking about. So, let's look into the possibility of Zero Suit Samus being playable in Metroid Prime 4. Welcome everyone, this is On Just Restart, and yes, we're going to be talking about the possibility of Zero Suit Samus being playable in Metroid Prime 4. So I'm sure a lot of you are asking, where do I get off on this idea of Zero Suit Samus being playable in Metroid Prime 4? Well, you see, it all started at E3 this year. So going into E3, a lot of Metroid fans, myself included, were hoping and kind of assuming that Metroid Prime 4 would probably be showing off, except it wasn't. In fact, E3 was kind of lackluster unless you count Smash Bros. Smash Bros. Took up more than half the show. And while Metroid fans may have been disappointed for the most part, going into the very end of the E3 presentation, there was one more big reveal from Smash Bros. That did sort of maybe lessen the blow to Metroid fans, and that was a reveal for Ridley being playable in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This is a big deal, and I myself was super excited about Ridley being playable in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. But you see, there is something kind of uncanny about that final reveal for Ridley at the end of the E3 presentation. They saved it for the very end. There was this emphasis placed on Metroid. It seemed like Nintendo was aware that we were expecting Metroid, hoping for Metroid, and it seemed like Nintendo was maybe using Smash Bros. To hype up Metroid for when we eventually do see the game. After all, Smash Bros. Is a game that is used to hype up and advertise other series, and they usually eventually do pretty well. So, you know, maybe Metroid Prime is finally getting that boost it needs from Smash Bros. To eventually succeed when it does come out, hopefully next year. So then going back to that reveal for Ridley, it just seemed weird that that's what they were doing. But there was something else that was peculiar about it. It wasn't just about Ridley, it was also about Zero Suit Samus. Like, for whatever reason, Zero Suit Samus popped out at the very end randomly. That didn't need to happen. They didn't need to put that there, but they did. It just seemed like they had a weird emphasis there. It didn't quite add up to me. And a lot of you probably just assumed that, hey, they just wanted to put that in there because Zero Suit Samus looked cool. And yeah, you're right, it did look cool, and that may be the case. Except here's the thing, it's now known that Nintendo is using Smash Bros. To tease things, and I've talked about this before and you may know where I'm getting at here, but I'm just going to say it anyways in case you don't. So, in the direct where we got the reveal for Simon Belmont in Super Smash Bros. During that big trailer with Luigi, we saw Luigi running around in a castle and he had a different design for his Poltergust. People thought it was weird and uncanny, but a lot of people just assumed it was just a random new design, even though Poltergust isn't really an item you use in Smash Bros. Except for the final Smash. And then sure enough, 2 months later, we got a confirmation and reveal for Luigi's Mansion 3. And sure enough, that new Poltergust design that we saw in Smash Bros. Was in Luigi's Mansion 3. So, Smash Bros. Was used to tease the Poltergust, the new design for the Poltergust in Luigi's Mansion 3. And that right there is evidence that Smash Bros. Is being used to tease other Nintendo games. So that brings me back to what I was talking about Zero Suit Samus being shown off at the end of the E3 presentation. Why was there this emphasis on Zero Suit Samus? Could they perhaps have been teasing Zero Suit Samus for Metroid Prime 4? I think so. I think it makes a lot of sense because it just kind of seemed off. It didn't seem well placed in terms of the overall presentation for Ridley in Smash Bros. It seemed like something additional. It seemed like they were teasing something, the same way they teased Luigi's Mansion 3. So that brings me to my point. Could it be that Zero Suit Samus is going to have more of a presence in Metroid Prime 4? I think it makes sense, not just because they were teasing it, but because if you think about it, the Metroid series has never really performed well when it comes to sales, and I know going into Metroid Prime 4, Nintendo wants this to be the best-selling Metroid yet. On the Switch, games are selling a lot better, but also Nintendo has done things differently as of late. They have reassessed the foundation for Zelda and Mario, and those games are doing really, really well, and they're appealing to a very large audience. Both Zelda and Mario are at the top of their game, and I believe they're doing something similar for Metroid as well. So this includes thinking of new ways to play the game and interact with the game world. And over the years, Zero Suit Samus has become progressively more and more popular, especially thanks to Smash Bros. We have an entire moveset now thanks to Smash Bros. And we have a better idea of how Samus can move around in her Zero Suit mode. So if you think about it, Metroid is going to be modernized. It's been quite some time since Metroid as an actual first-person shooter has been a thing. And now in this era where there's a lot of first-person shooters and stealth elements and such, maybe Zero Suit Samus could be used as some sort of stealth element in Metroid Prime 4. I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, think about it. Metroid Prime 4 is probably going to have more than one way to play the game. They're probably going to allow variation as to how you can go about beating the game and exploring the game world. I'm not saying the game's going to be fully open world, but I think they're definitely going to offer options. The same way they offered options in Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. Both of those games can be played in several different kinds of ways, and I think Metroid Prime 4 is also going to have different kinds of ways to play the game. So then, maybe Zero Suit Samus will be playable, and it'll be a different way to explore the game world, not just in the Morph Ball, not just in the traditional first-person style in your power suit, but also as Zero Suit Samus, and maybe could be kind of more of like a very stealthy, agile kind of mode. It makes sense to me. I think they can maybe do it, and it would be kind of cool to see Zero Suit Samus actually playable in Metroid Prime 4. The way I see it sort of working, I can imagine you could see a huge horde of space parts in a certain area, and maybe you can go gung-ho and just guns blazing and destroy everyone with your arm cannon, or maybe you could try and squeeze through and go through really quickly as the Morph Ball, or maybe you can go into a more stealthy-like mode as Zero Suit Samus and pick them off one by one in a very discreet kind of way, as opposed to blasting them in a very showy, very loud kind of way with your arm cannon. I think that variation in gameplay would be interesting and definitely could go a long ways towards making Metroid Prime 4 even more interesting and being the kind of game that appeal to an even larger audience while still maintaining that Metroidvania sort of explorative, atmospheric kind of essence that we know the Metroid Prime series to be. I think it's a cool idea. I think it could happen. I'm not saying it will happen. I am definitely concerned about them straying away from the traditional Metroid Prime gameplay, but I think that will still be the essence of the game. There will simply be some variations added to the gameplay to make it more interesting and more immersive. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Samus will be playable in her Zero Suit form for Metroid Prime 4? Or maybe they won't really do that and they'll just save the Zero Suit form for like an ending cutscene like they usually do for the Metroid Prime games. That is the most likely scenario, I would say, because that's what's happened in the past, but I do think the Metroid series is going to evolve with Metroid Prime 4 and go to even greater heights, and I think we should expect variations of the gameplay and new components to the Metroid Prime series. So maybe it'll happen. Maybe something else entirely different will happen. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But anyways, everyone, thank you so much for listening and watching. If you want to support the channel even more, please check out my Patreon or my Twitter or my Instagram. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe for just $1 a month on Patreon, and you will gain access to additional talking points and podcasts if you want to support me in that way. But regardless, if you enjoy the content and you're new here, make sure to subscribe and like the video. I would really appreciate it. It really helps out. But again, no matter what you do, I really appreciate that you guys watch this video all the way up until the end. It means a lot. So I'll see you all really soon. Take care.